Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Urvashi Sharma, Associate Professor, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication from Jagannath University, Jaipur. This is in continuation with our course on writing for media, and in this session, we'll be focusing on ethics in media writing. Before we start with the session, let us first understand the meaning of ethics. Ethics is a system of moral principles that includes idea about right and wrong and how people should or should not behave in general and specific cases. Now, ethics is knowing what is right and what is wrong. And this is set up in the society through our interaction with the society. So, it is basically the norms that have been there in the system or in the social units which help us to understand what is right and what is wrong. Now let us first understand what is media ethics. Media ethics is a broad term describing the proper modes of behavior to which all the branches of modern media should attempt to adhere. The branch of media that tries to live up to ethical standards include television, print communication, and the internet. Different issues arise depending upon the branch of media in question. Issues made more complicated by advancing technology. Many of the complications in media ethics arise from the conflict of ethical standards and the media companies' desire to make money. It's difficult to simplify media ethics because the issues that stem from different media can be contradictory in nature. What makes sense and seems fine for one branch of media might cross ethical lines if applied by another. In addition, technological advances have actually created a far more ethical dilemmas for media outlets than they have eliminated. All media companies and creators must walk an increasingly fine line to serve the public and stay morally sound. For television and motion pictures producers, the ethical dilemma comes from what kind of entertainment they bring to public. As an example, violence and foul language are a part of everyday life, and as such, often they are depicted in television and movies. Many parents don't want children to be exposed to such things. However, by the, by the same token, restriction, restricting an artist's vision can become a form of censorship, which is another huge issue in media ethics. News organizations have set their own set of media ethics to consider as they consider bringing information to the public. All news outlets should be truthful and properly representing the issues or stories being reported, but they also must be wary of truth doing some sort of damage to a portion of public. The ethics of pursuing news is also a constant issue because public needs to know may clash with the individual's right to privacy. In recent years, the internet has become a huge part of media ethics discussion. Whereas other media often have organizations that oversee their operation, it is nearly impossible to police everything that finds its way into the internet. Websites are often left to their own decision, own devices to decide what is ethical to show to the public and what's not, which means that the standard may vary from one site to next. These are some of the examples which highlight what are the ethical issue and what is media ethics. Taking the session forward, let us move to ethics in media writing. Generally, ethical concerns in media can be grouped into few broad categories. The following points synthesize and summarize some important ethical concerns proposed by Associated Press and the Society of Professional Journalists. Accuracy. Check the accuracy of information from all sources to avoid error. Subjects of news stories should always have an opportunity to respond to any allegation of wrongdoings. When mistakes are made, they must be corrected fully and quickly. Headlines, new teasers, and promotional material, including photos, videos, graphics, sound bites, and quotations, should never be misrepresented, oversimplify, or highlight the incident out of context. Accuracy as an ethic in media writing can be understood that the information must be supported by strong evidences and it must be clear and unambiguous. There can be no room for mistakes or misunderstandings. A news journalist's job is to cover facts, and that can be verified and attributed to trusted sources. They should not deal in rumors or speculation, nor should they add their own opinion or feeling when they are compiling the news reports. Accuracy is an essential part of that process. Accuracy comes ahead of speed. If you're not sure, don't publish until you are. Being first and wrong is not a model to aim for. Being right and always reliable is, because it builds your credibility and the credibility of your organization. M- Most major news organization, in order to achieve accuracy, requires journalists to have first-hand sources, not just talk to the same people as everyone else, double check all the facts that appear in the news report or the information that they are coming up with, and it has to be supported by evidence. Validate the information which is submitted. Confirm that something has happened by having two reliable and independent sources. Include corroboration for any claim or allegation made. Treatment of sources. It requires to identify sources wherever possible. This is also known as attributing the source, so that the public has much information as possible to determine the source reliability. Attributing the sources or identifying the sources also adds up to the credibility of the reporter or the journalist. Why so? Because it gives a picture to the reader that it is not what the reporter wants to say. It is what the eyewitness, the victim, or the police official or the organizers of the event are saying, which lends more trustworthiness to a news story, building on the credibility of both the reporter and the organization. Always keep any promises made in return for source cooperation. This is very important because you have to build trust not only amongst the readers but also amongst your sources. Now, how you build this trust? Say if you have promised the source that you will not reveal his identity, make sure that you don't reveal it. But again, the question arises, how an accuracy can be maintained in this case? In this case, it is very important for a reporter to get all the evidences from the source so that tomorrow, when somebody challenges the information or the fact, the reporter can protect himself, his organization, and also the source. Only guarantee a source anonymity when source insists upon, which means if the source does not want his or her name to be revealed, the reporter should not do it because it will breach the trust between the reporter and the source. And the source one trusts one breached, he will never trust you back. or she provides a vital information. When there is no other way to obtain information and when the source knowledge is knowledgeable and reliable. Strive to quote the sources accurately and in proper context. It is very important in order to maintain an accuracy and in order to say comply by the ethics in media writing that the reporter takes care of the source. He should always report the source or attribute the source who is giving the information. Before attributing the source, he must check the reliability of the source because one wrong source can be a blot on your career and also on the organization. Then, whatever promises you are making to the source, you must abide by them. Again, if the source doesn't want his or her name to be revealed, you should not do it. But in order to protect yourself and the organization from any, say, allegation, you must take all the evidence from the source, cross check it so that tomorrow if there's any legality involved, you are able to protect yourself and the organization and build on your credibility in the front of your readers. Avoiding bias. This is another aspect in media ethics that one needs to follow. So whenever a reporter is reporting a story, he has to go there and report plain facts. When I say plain facts, I mean whatever is happening. He has to just report it and come back. So his story has to be objective. What I mean by objective? Here I mean that he should not add his own point of view or perception to a new story. At the same time, it has to be balanced. What do we mean by balanced? We mean that it has to reveal or tell about all the parties which are involved in the story or the event, which means that if I'm covering an accident, I need to have the point of view of the police official, the eyewitness, the victim, the accused, so that a complete picture is given to my reader. And then my reader reads the story and then he decides what to do. But in case of, say, analytical piece, which can be an article or feature, the reporter must identify the angle, and then the angle or the uh, point of view of that particular story which reporter or the writer wants to talk about or discuss or analyze, it must be substantiated with facts. It should not be, say, in the air. It has to be substantiated with facts so that readers believe it. Readers are able to get a logical reason why a author is has chosen this particular angle or why the author's opinion or the writer's opinion is this on an issue. It has to be substantiated with facts. Then it is also important to distinguish between news and advertising. The purpose of the news is to give facts and information to the reader, whereas the purpose of advertising is to persuade the readers or persuade the audience to take an action. Now, there are some pieces in the newspaper which are known as advertorials, which means that they'll be talking about a particular product and in a way promoting that product. Now, these articles or these kind of feature appear in the supplements of a news story. You should examine your own cultural values and avoid imposing those values on others. Then the reporter should not be stereotyped in terms of gender, caste, religion, ethnicity, geographical, say, locality, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, or social change or status. And you must support open exchange of ideas, views, and opinions. Avoid distortions. What do we mean by distortion? So, distortion simply means the act of twisting or altering something out of its true, natural, or original state. Now, here, what do we mean by distortion? The journalist should not distort the facts. He should not introduce false information into the existing set of information, because as a journalist or as a mass communicator, your message is reaching the masses, which are spread over a large geographical area. Now, your distorted message can do harm to society. It can incite violence. It can lead to, say, riots. So, as a journalist, as a media person, it is very important that you do not distort facts. Distortion can be done in the message which is disseminated through mass media in terms of including false information or morphing of photographs, video, or sound which can mislead the entire masses. So, as a media professional, one should avoid distortion because the distortion of fact or information can have a negative impact on society. Gathering information. Avoid undercover or other structuous methods of gathering information except when traditional open method will not yield information vital to the public, which means you should gather information appropriately. You should not take up to the means which are not accepted in society. Use of non-traditional methods of gathering information should be explained as part of the story. In case you're doing some investigative story, then maybe you can say use the hidden camera or the spy camera, or you can say do a role play kind of an act in order to get the facts on and the essence of the story. But other than that, this non-traditional method of gathering the information should not be used. You rely on most up-to-date and accurate research whenever you're gathering a story, and never plagiarize. Never use the information or material or the story filed by the other person in your name. Because if you're doing plagiarism, you can be, if you're caught or if story is plagiarized, you can be face a legal action. One such example of an Indian journalist taking up a non-traditional method of news gathering or information gathering can be Indian Express's human trafficking exposed. This was an investigative story. The name Ashwini Sareen is not very famous, but in the world of media, But in the world of media, he is known as the man who showed how investigative journalism can further the cause of democracy. His sharp and penetrating investigative article exposed the family planning atrocities during emergency, the multi-crore defense vehicle disposal racket, and the torture of Tihar jail inmates. However, the Indian Express reporter is best known for his incisive report on human trafficking that created a whole discourse around flesh trade, controversial as it may have been. In 1981, he exposed the sordid racket by breaking the law himself when he bought a tribal girl named Kamla and show how easy it was to buy humans in India. He also worked for inspired his also work inspired a movie and play named Kamla. Now this is how an investigative story was a racket was revealed by Ashwini Sareen when he himself adopted a non-traditional method. He went there, bought this girl Kamla, and then the entire story unfolded. Minimizing harm. Show compassion to those who may be adversely affected by news coverage, especially children and inexperienced sources or subjects. It is very important to be empathize with the victims of the event. Okay, you have to be sensitive towards people who have faced a tragedy or who are in grief when you're seeking news, sound bites, photographs, or their interview. You don't ask a person who has just lost a family member how it feels. You have to be considerate, sympathetic, and empathizing towards the people who are in grief. Understand that private people have greatest expectation of privacy than do public officials and other people who seek power of influence or action. Be cautious about identifying juvenile suspects and victims of sex crime. You do not reveal the name of the girl who is a victim of a sex crime. At the same time, you do not reveal the name of a juvenile who is a suspect because they have a long life to live, and this can hamper their position in society as they'll be looked down upon. So, what you do, you come up with the pseudonames to identify them. For example, Nirbhaya is not the real name of the girl who suffered that night, but it is a pseudonym which is given to her by the media. Because if we go and reveal the real name of the victims, it would be very harmful in terms of emotionally harmful for the entire family. Be cautious about naming criminals and suspects before the formal filing of charges. Unless and until the law has declared or the court has declared somebody as a criminal, you have no right to address him as a criminal because, again, it can have a very, very strong emotional impact on that person as well as his family members. Avoid conflicts of interest. Avoid conflicts of interest, real or perceived. Remain free of associations and activities that may comprise of integrity or damage credibility. Always refuse gifts, favor, free fees, free travel, and special treatment. Why? Because when you are a media person, it is your duty to report to the people what is happening. You are the fourth pillar of democracy or fourth estate of democracy, as well as watchdog of society. So, as a watchdog of society, you have to be very clear as to what you are reporting. So, never take any benefits from any person or any party because they seek obligation in return. Avoid secondary employment, political involvement, public office, or service in community organization if they comprise journalist if they want you to compromise on your journalistic integrity. Disclose unavoidable conflicts, deny favor treatment to advertisers and special interest, be wary of sources offering information for favor of money. There are no set standards of ethical journalistic practices, but two widely recognized organizations, the Associated Press and Society of Professional Journalists, offer useful and time tested guidelines. When in doubt, always confer with a trusted colleague or supervisor. Media ethics is a subdivision of applied ethics dealing with specific ethical principles and standards of media included broadcast media, film, theater, art, print media, and internet. The field covers many varied and highly controversial topics ranging from war journalism to advertising. Ethical behavior elevates the practice of journalism. Journalism has an ethical goal, the communication of truth and facts. The problem is that the concept of truth has changed through human history. So, in this session, along with this, media audiences have to change. In this context, even accepted facts and truth are subject to various interpretation among diverse viewers and readers on the basis of geography and cultural divides. Telling the truth as one view it then becomes a matter of possessing good moral character and learning to recognize truth and how to convey it without distortion. Truth has somehow come to be mixed up with vision and present circumstances. There has been much debate some years back about means employed by the Tehelka team on film to record on film the extent of corruption in defense ministry, over purchase of arms and ammunitions. The use of subterfuge to find the truth has been questioned in different forums of journalists. That is why the importance of ethics in field of journalism is necessary. So in this session we have discussed media ethics and what is the importance of ethics in media. Ethics in media are very important because we as a media persons are playing a role as a watchdog of society, and it becomes our responsibility to come up with facts and figures and information which is correct so that our readers get true picture of how the things are moving in society. So it is very important that we follow the ethics as far as accuracy, non-distortion of facts, and present a true picture in front of our readers. Thank you.